Oh, wonderful. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to today's webinar. My name is Alex Adams. I'm going to be hosting for the next hour. My background, I'm the founder of Secret Foodies, which is a experiential events company in the food space, and also the founder of lifestyle website eatdrinkplay.com. 2 years ago, I started Darling Crackles with Craig, a hospitality marketing agency, and I'll let Craig tell you a little bit about that in a minute. A couple of housekeeping things before I introduce our panel today is we're only going to try and stick to an hour, so we might not get a chance to answer as many questions, but over on the right hand side you'll see there's a chat, there's a Q&A I think section, so jump on the Q&A or the chat and you can ask questions. If we don't get a chance to answer them today, what we'll do is we'll send around a recording of today's session to everyone who registered, and we'll also maybe do like a quick Q&A document so that we can try and answer as many questions as possible. But if I could just throw over to our panel, I'd love for you guys just to quickly introduce yourselves. Craig, maybe you can kick off.
Hi, my name's Craig McIndoe. So I'm director of Darling Crackles, as Alex has said. In the past, I've opened 50 restaurants. So everything from, I've opened catering companies all the way through to, I used to run Kensington Street and all the 18 businesses involved with that. And so for ages, I was an operator and just started learning a lot about marketing. And Alex and I have known each other for about 10 years. And I think I was one of her first Secret Foodies experience. We did a thing called Don't Panic, It's Organic. I was promoting Kensington Street, and Alex and I sort of had a few wines, and she said, oh, well, how about we do a digital agency together? And so that's how Darling Crackles was born. And since then, it's been going from strength to strength. It's fantastic.
What about yourself, Mark?
Yeah, so I'm Mark Sudwicks. I'm the head of sales over at Sprout by My Guest List. We're a company that's all about helping venues and managing their data. So essentially what we offer is a CRM marketing solution, helping venues to collate all of their customer data that they're collecting from all their various different systems, and giving them the tools to be able to maximize that data as well. So whether it's targeting customers with sending emails, sending SMSs, but also being able to send customers along what we call like automatic customer journeys as well. So primarily it's data for us, and it's wanting venues to get the most out of that data.
Yeah, great. And Paddy?
Thanks, Alex. So I'm Paddy McCrory from Now Book It. I'm the National Manager for Australia and New Zealand. We are Australia and New Zealand's largest online reservation platform. We're also Australian owned and developed in Australia, which is pretty unique in this space, and we're very proud of that. Couple of things that we do differently that sort of set us apart are that we want all of our client partners, restaurant partners, to own all of their customer data so they can re-engage with their customers and get them to return. That's probably why it's important to be here and partner with businesses like Sprout to help you do something with that data. And we also wanted to abolish the model where there's a pay per person fee charged by online booking providers, because it was incredibly expensive and just not necessary, and it was crippling to a lot of businesses. So we focus on customer data and a low fixed cost for our system. And we were built in consultation with the hospitality industry here in Australia, and we regularly consult the industry based on what the industry needs and what they want going forward. So we're constantly adding features to the system based on that.
Yeah, I know a lot of our clients use Now Book It. And Michael, welcome.
Hey guys, how you going? Michael Feagin. So I own Atticus Hospitality, so hospitality-based, predominantly bars. We've been trading now since 2016, but it's been a long journey. So we own Paddington. We've also got Esteban, which has been open since October last year. So we actually opened this restaurant smack bang pandemic, which is a pretty exciting time. And we also now purchased the Effendi building, if anybody knows that, in Balmain. So it's a new venture that we're actually opening a pop-up restaurant in 2 months there, and then building, once we get our DAs approved, we're building a 250 to 300 seater next. So yeah, lots going on. We've also got a home delivery platform that we've launched, which is in between Potts Point and Darlinghurst, with the intention of getting out pretty much all over Sydney. And then last but not least, we've got a cocktail brand called Cheeto that we're launching into our bottle shops within the next couple of months. So yeah, flat chat. I'm really excited to be involved today. So yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, thank you. Well, as you guys can tell, we've got our expert panel here. And, you know, the purpose of today is to dive into how to thrive during lockdown. Obviously, it's been really hard for a lot of the hospitality industry. But now that we are starting to hear of reopening dates of when we might be able to get back into action, we'll also try and filter through some of those marketing tips on how you can make the most of your reopen. But I guess where I really want to start is different ways that venues have been making money during lockdown. Now, Michael, you've particularly thrived during lockdown, where a lot of venues have unfortunately had to close their doors and just batted down the hatches. But it seems like this has been an opportunity for you to open and launch new businesses. Perhaps you could start with a few different ways that you've managed to make money during lockdown.
Yeah, look, in an odd way, I actually it seems strange, but I actually kind of enjoy these periods because, look, although I mean, obviously I'd like to trade as per normal and have that comfort of just doing what we do best and sticking with our processes and all the rest. But, you know, in these circumstances, it's an opportunity to be creative and try new things. I think one of the great things about lockdown is that, you know, people, you can do things and try new things. And if they don't work, look, you know, you can blame it on the lockdown. You can say, look, you know, we gave it a shot doing this. People are really, you know, open to people, you know, trying new things. It's all about right now being creative and how do you differentiate yourself from, you know, from other, you know, there's so many restaurants and bars out there, obviously trying to make ends meet. So you've got to be creative and you've got to work out ways to, you know, to compete. So, you know, we've got, as I said, we've got To Kill a Mockingbird in Paddington, you know, and that place, we've got, you know, on a Saturday night, we have 20 drivers out on the road. It's ridiculous the amount of, you know, deliveries we're doing. You know, we've got the city venue, we've got 2 different dark kitchens out of the city now. As I said, I bought Fendi in Balmain, so you know, in 2 months we're opening another pop-up restaurant, and we'll be free out of there. So you know, and then we're opening another joint in Potts Point to do home delivery. So, you know, the general idea now is we're going to try and basically deliver food and drinks to all. That's the basic plan.
Michael, is that because you were just so busy? Like you created these at-home meal kits and they were so popular that you now are taking over dark kitchens and you just needed more space?
Yeah, well, that's it. Just the demand's there. And I think what we're doing now is opening, you know, unfortunately, there's a lot of venues that are going under. So you can get some really good deals right now. If you just want a trial and error, you know, there's no reason why you can't go to an agent or a landlord and say, hey, can I get a 6 month lease? I've actually propped that now on something we're looking at. You know, who's ever heard of a 6 month lease? You know, 6 by 1 by 3 by 5 by 5 or whatever it is. But it gives you the opportunity to test it out, and you know, obviously, if it doesn't work, then you can pull out of the lease. But you know, right now, landlords are desperate as well to get some money in the doors, and obviously, most people aren't opening up venues right now. So you know, there is an opportunity there. Yeah.
I think a lot of people are probably thinking, wow, that sounds amazing. I'd love to get to the point where I could open a dark kitchen because there's such demand. But a lot of people are probably in the situation where they don't even know how to get to that point where they're already at capacity. So what did you do, you think, that made you so popular? Was it meal boxes? Was it just takeaway? Was it takeaway cocktails? What do you think made it so popular?
Well, look, we sell, I think we sell the most Patron per venue in Australia now. So Patron's really good to us, or Bacardi. So they gave us about 20,000 bottles, little bit bigger than these ones, actually. Funny enough, we were just playing around with something. But, you know, we've got really good partners, so we've teamed up with the right people. You know, I always watch what Merivale does, to be honest. So last year, the minute they joined Hungry, which is a home delivery platform a lot of companies are using, we jumped straight after them. You know, and basically just made the most of it. You know, one thing we're always doing is trying new things. So Saturday we did a virtual cocktail making class with Patron. So people got mail delivered that day. They got a 3-course meal, a full cocktail kit, a bottle of Patron, bottle of fresh lime juice, and basically they sat down and ate, and we matched food to the beverages, and everybody learned how to make cocktails. So, people loved it. Yesterday we were in this restaurant. We filmed an entire virtual food and beverage wine dinner with Torbeck wines. So you've got me talking, you've got my head chef talking about the food, you've got James Young from Torbeck talking about the wines, and the idea is we're going to join Providor in about a week or two once we get this new delivery venue we're going to start using. And we're basically going to sell packaged wine experiences. So instead of selling a box of food where you get involved and you prep and cook it, we're doing a whole virtual experience. So, that's another way. But that's the thing, you've got to be creative. I'll jump in now too, because I remember, Alex, you wanted me to make mention, guys, if you do own a hospitality business, there's a grant out there right now, which is called the Hospitality Training and Government Incentive Grant. So 100% recommend anybody, who owns a business to get out there and look into that. If you message me or message Alex, I'm happy to help out. But basically, if you have Australian residents or permanent residents who work for you, you can sign up today if you've got them, if you want to get down to it. But essentially, you're getting a 50% wage subsidy. So each year we worked out for every single staff member, and we've got nearly 80 close to it. All the full timers, we can get 25 grand back per year, tax free. So work that out. 50, roughly staff members who are full time, 25 times 25,000. It's a lot of money you can get as a rebate. And obviously, right now it's a great thing to get, especially at times like this.
Yeah, that's great. So we'll definitely share those details with everyone, because I reckon there's quite a few people would be interested in learning more about that grant. And look, it's interesting also that you talk about creating whole experiences, because I think that's one thing that I found during lockdown is just the innovation that's come out of this has been incredible. And it's people who are doing, we've got a client who they regularly do once a month. Every Tuesday they do a vegan night. And so they just basically made this vegan experience, and they did it, and they ended up selling more through their takeaway vegan nights. They also do a monthly gin and jazz night. So they created, this awesome jazz playlist, and then they partnered up with different gin brands and did virtual tastings. And so I think that's one of the cool things that I've seen is that different venues and businesses are creating experiences. What about you, Craig? What have you've seen in the way of businesses making money during lockdown?
Well, it occurs to me that most of what's happening now is really all about how do you connect with your customers. And so if you're just offering takeaway, you're very limited in how much money you can make. It's an hour and a half period. Unless you've really worked on your processes, just doing takeaway and just sort of putting it out in your socials is a very, very difficult way to make money. So in what we've seen is we've just seen people do all sorts of things. We've seen virtual classes. I personally have even done virtual cooking classes where people have been delivered the raw ingredients, and then you're actually doing cooking classes. Now, I know that Colin Fasnich did it last time, and I think Justin North has also done it. So if you've ever got a chef that's got a little bit of personality, it's a great way to actually get out there. I even heard of a guy, a curry chef, who basically he charges you, I think it's $49 or something per person, and he just sends you the ingredients, or no, sorry, he sends you a list of the ingredients, and then you pay him. I mean,
that's great margin.
Anyway, I mean, I think the big thing that everybody seems to have jumped on is meal boxes. Now, a lot of people are like, oh yeah, I can't do it, but we've seen massive success from meal boxes, because the takeaway window is only really an hour and a half most nights, and you don't get your upsell and all that sort of stuff. So if you've got meal boxes, you can actually deliver them at certain times. It enables you to use your kitchen over a longer period of time. So we've had some really great success with a lot of people who are doing meal boxes. In fact, I'll tell you a story. I've got this guy that we do some paid social for down in Canberra. And when the lockdown said, I said, look, I think you're really going to get a bit of value if you use your database. And he said, oh, look, EDMs don't work. I don't think that they're going to, Anyway, so I said, just let me do it. Let me do 2 for you, and we'll see how they go. Anyway, so we sent out a Father's Day thing, and he sold out everything that he had in less than an hour. And I think he had a wait list of he had 1,000 people click through to to purchase his meal box. And then I thought, oh well, it's Father's Day, you know, like that's going to be. And the next week we did it again, and all we did was we sent out an EDM saying, thanks so much for your Father's Day. Here's the menus for this week. Sold out again, and he sold out on Tuesday for the weekend. So he gets all the money in his account, and then he gets to make it. So I mean, I think there's a lot of people out there in the restaurant land who just kind of go, well, couldn't we keep doing that? I mean, obviously that's not going to happen because people are going to want to get out. But I think those meal boxes have really been a big win for, and that's been the real success of Providore too, hasn't it? I mean, Providore seems to have come out and gone, okay, for those restaurants who don't want the hassle of delivery and also want to expand their reach, Providore seems to have been a real win for some of those people. But I want to say the other thing I did. I've got a database from when I used to own Moo Moo Grill, and there's actually a company we're dealing with, Brasserie Wines, who actually white label a wine store. So if you're a restaurant and you want extra revenue, they will actually call your clients on your behalf, sell them wine that's obviously curated by you, and you make a clip on the ticket. So you don't have to do anything. It's just all about your providing extra service to your customers. So it seems to me that in these times, it's really the big things to change are technology. Like everybody has to learn about how technology is going to help them, and reach. So how can we get out and how can we talk to people? And then obviously the big thing that Michael's been talking about, and that we always harp on about, is actually doing things that are worth talking about. So you have different events, and like you have to do things that are worth talking about, and you have to trial it. Yeah, so that's me for the moment.
That's great, thank you. And Mark, I mean, talking about technology that Craig was just mentioning, have you seen ways that people have been utilising your platform and technology to help them through lockdown?
Oh, absolutely. I think, look, early on when COVID hit, obviously there was that scramble to get everybody or to be able to get online. And we obviously have a ticketing solution, which a lot of venues got quite creative with and said, okay, well, rather than just distributing a ticket to somebody when they purchase, when they make a purchase online, well, we could use that to facilitate payments. And I suppose probably, that was used for things like meal boxes. It probably didn't work so well for that instant, I want something right now. But that was certainly a good little stopgap for a lot of venues early days. But I think the thing that they also took advantage of was that they were able to then collect the data, and then it meant that they could see who purchased what and what they'd been, when they'd been purchasing as well. So they could use that for retargeting. And I guess now we've probably come away from venues using our ticketing platform, and there's obviously a plethora of online ordering systems out there now. But what we've been able to do is integrate with a number of these different platforms. So again, we're getting all of that data. So if you're an Italian restaurant that then wants to, decide, what, I could make a bit of money if I go and create 50 lasagnas or 100 lasagnas, well, they can see, who's purchased pasta from them in the past or whatever it might be, and go and target those people with a specific type of communication. So that's, I think that's probably the ways we've seen the venues use technology really well. And I suppose it's hopefully changed some behaviour amongst a lot of the hospitality industry to say, okay, well, when we come out of lockdowns, why can't we still be doing this sort of stuff? And something actually that Michael said before was that, obviously the lockdowns forced him to try something different, as has been the case with a lot of venues. Now, yeah, I think we'd all like to go back to 100% capacities in restaurants and all that sort of stuff. But I think certainly interpreting, which is probably a dangerous thing to do, but interpreting communications coming out from the various governments at the moment, I'm not sure we're going to go back to 100% capacity for quite some time. So there's arguably going to be a spot there or an opportunity there for venues to continue some of this sort of stuff, maybe not in its full form, but in some way, shape or form. But even like when we do go back to 100% capacity, if you talk to any venue owner, there's always lulls throughout the year, periods where things don't go so well. For some venues that's winter, for some venues that's summer. So why not still do this sort of stuff as well? Why can't you do things like Father's Day packs and that sort of stuff, and any other given year too? So I think it's probably just opened venues' eyes a little bit more to go, hey, there is other things we can try, and there are other things we can do.
Yeah, absolutely. Because there's so many venues. I just look at what you've been doing, Michael, and so many other venues I've seen have invested a lot of time and effort and you've got a really cool product. So it'd be a shame to, let that go. What about you, Patty? What are you seeing in the way of sort of technology and how people are using Now Book It in particular for takeaways or meal boxes?
Yeah, sure. Sort of, I guess if you rewind about 18 months to late March last year, the whole world was getting pretty strange, and in Australia, everyone was stuck at home. And one of the benefits of us having a dev team of 20 people in Australia was that we were able to shapeshift pretty quickly. And within a week, we'd created an online ordering system that could be used for takeaway or delivery to give to our clients for free. And being the largest platform in Australia with a strong resource on the ground or at home at that stage, we were able to give that to our clients at no cost and turn around the setup in about 24 hours. So within a day of them wanting to have a solution for taking orders online or for taking delivery orders, we were able to give that to them. And it was using the framework of the Now Book It online booking system and just slightly changing it. So being able to give that pretty early on in the piece, it sort of gave us a lot of exposure to our clients that were doing that. And there was a huge take up of that all around the country. And like Mark's mentioned, beyond lockdowns, in Western Australia, we've got a large number of clients that were doing that during lockdown that have continued on doing that and have been very successful with it. So, making people think about something they wouldn't normally consider because they're a dine-in restaurant and opening up that new revenue stream can have far-reaching implications beyond the lockdown. One of the other things that I thought was really creative during the first round of lockdowns, and maybe to a smaller degree during the recent extended ones in Victoria, New South Wales, ACT, was asking for support from the database in terms of purchasing gift cards. So prior to lockdown, we'd added to our online gift card platform to add experiences in there as well. So it wasn't just about buying dollar value gift vouchers. You could now sell people multi-course menus with wine or with cocktails included, or sell people experiences for cocktail making sessions. And with Now Book It, the fact that our clients own all of their customer data, they actually have huge databases of people to go out and let them know what they're doing. And with a built-in discount code, you could go out to your database and say, look, obviously we're closed now, but we won't be closed forever. If you look after us now, we'll look after you down the track and give you 10% off your experience. And a lot of venues started turning over, money in a time when there was none coming in and they needed some to cover their overheads. And the beauty about gift cards is that there's a huge rate of non-redemption in hospitality. So 35% of gift vouchers that are purchased by people are never utilised. So that's, again, straight to the bottom line. So there's a pretty healthy margin on that. Obviously, as operators, you want people coming in to experience your restaurant, but it's just a fact of life that a lot of those will never end up being used when they've been used for gifting purposes.
Yeah.
Sorry, Alex.
Oh, you go. Yeah.
It's been a really important part of this lockdown, I think, has been the community engagement of restaurants and people wanting to support their locals. And a lot of venues that we deal with, sometimes they'll say, I don't want to bug people, but actually people want to give you their business in this time. So it's a really important part of, I love the gift card thing, but it's a really important thing to think about. People actually want to support your business. And so if you're not communicating, how can they?
Yeah, I think to add to that as well, we saw a venue up in Sydney who, something completely different from what they normally do. They created like a weekly raffle. So they went out to local businesses, asked them to donate prizes, and basically, part of the incentive was, we'll promote your business out to our database as well. And what it was like a raffle with a $5 ticket, really sort of leaning on that community involvement and wanting to support local and that sort of stuff. So they'd go out to their social media channels, they'd email their database, and then they just send like 1,000 SMS messages per week. So they weren't always hitting people up, say, via an SMS channel. But some weeks they've generated like $20,000 of additional revenue. And it just seems so simple to have done, but like that's just extra revenue coming in for that business. So again, it's just getting clever. It's probably playing on a little bit on that. People do want to help us out and they do want to get involved. I mean, who doesn't want to, buy $5 to go in and win a meat platter from the local butcher or whatever it might be. So yeah, I think it's quite clever and probably a little bit outside of the norm.
Probably just carrying on from what Michael was saying earlier, checking in on what Maryvale are doing. as a restaurant operator, you should be following the people that are the leaders in probably every market in the country and even overseas to get an idea of what the top raters are doing, and even not to just copy them, but just to get an idea of the things that they're doing and put your own spin on it and promote something that's going to be attractive to your customers and align with your brand as well.
Well, Paddy, you can somewhat copy it, because say in Melbourne, I must say I'm not abreast of what's in Sydney, but we've got a 5 kilometre radius. So your market is so small right now in Melbourne. Like, just because somebody like Maryvale is doing something in Sydney, why can't a local restaurant in the suburbs of Melbourne do something very similar as well? I mean, they're only competing with other venues within 5Ks. They're not competing with Maryvale or the big guys in the city. So I think you can certainly lean and definitely lean on what other venues are doing.
The other one was, which we haven't talked about, is the corporate market. I mean, for instance, when was it? Thursday last week, we did one order, was just under 15,000 for
Wow.
103. So we had Credit Suisse. They ordered 103 $145 packages to 103 customers all over Sydney. We delivered to Avalon. If people ask, I mean, it's money. Why cap 5 kilometres? We go, as far as the eye can see. People are going to pay for it. We'll do it. You know what I mean? And that's about designing your product that can travel well. And if somebody does specifically say, I want that, you say, look, guys, that's not going to work if we're going to Avalon. But, that's the other thing, is people are still working right now. People are working from home. In the city, people want to reach out to their clients. I mean, part of the whole hospitality industry, especially in the CBD, runs off corporates coming in and doing their Thursday, Friday, boozy, work lunches, connecting with other clients of theirs. So what we've been doing is targeting all the corporates. So, people want to send stuff. We get every week, we probably spend, we get at least 5 to 10 grand a week minimum of, corporates saying, hey, can you deliver gift packs so that they can do a Zoom meeting, just like we're doing now, except they get it beforehand and they sit there, they drink, they eat. Sometimes we do tequila classes, and you give them an experience and then they do their meeting after. So that's the other, thing to think of. It's not just the residents living in, it's the corporates too that still got their credit cards that they want to spend.
I mean,
Which I can imagine would be really beneficial for CBD businesses in particular. Michael, when you say you targeted corporates, how did you exactly target them? Do you have a database, a list, or how do you go about that?
Yeah, we do. I mean, well, one of the things is we've always, that database that we've got, intellectual property is just so valuable. So there's that. I mean, look, we're in Paddington. There's a lot of white collar CEOs and stuff in the area. That restaurant's always been built off, really stop and make the time to, reach out and get to know people. And we know in Paddington who's let's call them the ballers or whatnot. So, if we see them out, we're always pitching them, hey, do you want us to do the X, Y, and Z? So that's something we do. Even now we're trying to work out how we can, speak to, I can't remember the company, but there's a marketing company out there where you can pay to find out where, who are all the EAs to the big executives in the city, and send them, not the executives, send the EA to them a gift pack and say, put it in the mail, find out where it needs to be sent to if they're still working in the office, and then have that saying, hey, we offer X, Y, and Z. It's a great way to do that. And then they're the ones that are really the ones promoting these ideas to their bosses who ultimately make the call to say, let's do it.
Yeah.
I think the important part that some people miss out on is you just got to not be afraid of actually charging, and not be afraid of offering something that's actually of real value. The thing that I've actually seen is lobsters. Now a lot of people are now going, okay, well, I may not, in terms of takeaway, just put on something that's going to be $150. Put on lobsters at $159. I mean, the Sydney Restaurant Group has now got, they regularly do an indulgence platter, which is $160 for two. It's a lobster spaghetti and some focaccia and stuff. So I think you've got to remember that there's plenty of people out there who've got money, and most of them are starved for something special to do. So don't be afraid of having some stuff that on there that's really expensive.
Oh yeah, look at Providor. I mean, 300 boxes, and you've got to cook them. I've done them a few times, and I think they're great. But you get to main courses and you're drunk, and you're like, oh, I can't be bothered trying to cook the main. People are paying for it. I mean, it's experience. People want to do something different. So yeah, people just want to be entertained and fed.
Mark, you mentioned just before about SMS. So that kind of dovetails into one of our next questions, which is around cost-effective marketing. Is SMS a cost-effective marketing tool when it comes to the hospitality space?
Yeah, look, it absolutely is. I think you also have to look at things like just the simple metrics around open rates. So take an email campaign. Look, now these are averages, obviously, and the industry average on an email open rate is 21, 22%. You really should be seeing more than that, though, if you are targeting in what you're sending out. However, from an SMS point of view, it has an open rate of nearly 99%. It's just under, and that's from studies that have been done. And I suppose if you think about it, when you get an SMS, you tend to look at it. You might switch off a lot of notifications on your phone. The SMS is the one that stays on. So straight away, you almost have 4 times as many people looking at an SMS. Now, when you're sending an SMS, there are 2 types of communications. There's that sort of ad hoc marketing message, which might be used in that example I said before about, creating lasagnas. I'll just target people that would be interested in that. But then there's also the transactional type messages. So these are messages that you might send around a customer transacting with your business. So for instance, with Sprout, there's a customer journey builder. So what a venue might choose to do is say, okay, well, let's just target, say, first time orderers. So somebody who's ordered from us, that's the first time. So either that night or the day after, a message could automatically go out to that person, not salesy by any means, but just, how was it? Can I get some feedback? You could even have it so that it looks like it comes from the owner as well. So that's the first thing. But then 3 or 4 days later, we could have it so that a follow-up SMS goes out, maybe with an offer of sorts to try and get that person to convert into a repeat customer sooner rather than later. So rather than sort of just going, oh, great, hopefully they remember, they come back. It's that sort of being proactive. And again, you can automate all of this as well. And then further to that, if they haven't ordered, say, within a week or 2, we can see the orders that are coming in if we've got the online ordering system connected to Sprout. Maybe a third message goes out. So again, just rather than putting up our hands and going, oh, we've lost that person. Again, it's just using this technology, and again, SMS can really drive that for you. Just because again, it gets seen, it has a good response. I was talking to someone the other day who was telling me they work with some venues, sent out $100 of SMSs, so call that like 1,000 people, and they generated nearly $5,000 in revenue from that one particular SMS. So I think you're not necessarily going to get that every single time, and it absolutely will come down to what it is you're sending and what it is you're sharing, and is it relevant to the people you're sending it to. But I think a lot of people would take $5,000 from a $100 investment. So yeah,
I think that's an important point, Mark. The really important point is marketing. Like, we talk about cost-effective marketing, and often people see that as cheap marketing or free marketing.
Yeah.
Now, the way we look at it, or the way I look at it, is in terms of return on investment. So the two big things are, if I spend $1, how many dollars am I going to get back? Now, the bit about that is, how do you track it, right? So our 2 most effective things, like if we're doing EDMs, make sure that there's some way in which you can track click-throughs all the way through to paying. And the second thing is paid socials, in which you need to make sure, if you're doing paid socials, so many people just boost stuff and they say, I'm getting so many click-throughs, and so many agencies are like, I'm doing this paid social media, and without actually putting it as a conversion campaign where you can actually see that someone's actually purchased or booked, all you're doing is just throwing money up into the air and hoping that you're getting hoping you're getting stuff back. So there's a number of things. I think whenever you sort of have a look at a campaign, you really need to sort of go, okay, did that work, and how much money do I make out of it? So there's a number of different tools which work really well. I mean, the Facebook business is super powerful, and if you don't have enough, if you don't want to do all the learnings of that, obviously we can help you with that. The second thing is the back end of some of the ticketing platforms. So your ticketing platform in particular, you can actually set up different links. So you can, when we did meal boxes in the first lockdown, we had I think we had 14 different links. So we had a number of different email channels. We had all the paid socials, and we put different links on each method of communication. And then in the back end of My Guest List, you could actually track which ones actually sold tickets. So if you do that, if you make the investment in actually going, okay, right, well, how am I going to track this? And you do track it, then you learn what your most effective forms of marketing is. So I think the cost-effective marketing is it's very important that you look at it in terms of return on investment rather than just the actual physical cost up front.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point. I mean, even with organic social, which Michael might get you to talk about organic social, because you guys have beautiful content that you share online. With the algorithm and the way it works, it can be really hard to reach. So you've got to kind of justify the amount of time that's spent. And anyone who thinks, oh, I'm just going to post on my organic social feed and that's going to convert to sales, I would argue, and Michael, maybe you can join me in this conversation about, it's more of a branding kind of experience. So when people are thinking, oh, where am I going to go to eat, and someone recommends a restaurant, they can look at Esteban and go, wow, that looks beautiful, I want to eat that. And I think we are finding more and more people coming in and pointing at photos on their Instagram feed and saying they're wanting that. But is that necessarily going to be the one thing that drives people into your restaurant or your bar? Probably not. But I mean, you've had some great success with social media, the organic social media, Michael.
Yeah, well, I mean, exactly that. I mean, you've got to keep reminding people, hey, we're here, think of us, you're hungry or you're thirsty, and, I'm lucky that one of my best mates is one of the hospitality photographers, Steve Woodburn, which is a handy thing. But I mean, we've got a whole new menu at Esteban because we've, being in the city, we've had a little dip with Esteban's deliveries in the last sort of couple of weeks. But you know what? We're always testing the market. Let's change the menu. So we've got they're upstairs now in the kitchen design, putting it all together. We're doing a photo shoot this afternoon and we'll get it back out there. But even when we do deliveries, we're always telling the drivers, because we don't use Uber Eats or Deliveroo, and I'm not a big fan of their platforms in general, to be honest. But I mean, our whole thing is we're informing our drivers, hey, do this. When they get in the car or they get on their motorbike, make sure you tell the guest, hey, take a photo, put it up on socials. We'd love to see it. It's all about creating the ultimate date night or the experience at home. So people love it. They're at home. They've got nothing else to do anyway. They're working or they're drinking. So they get all the cute little, Patron cocktail bottles that we've got, and they put together a boomerang with the food and, make it out like they're sitting in the restaurant. So we kind of get our clientele involved. And the other thing is just teaming up with other venues, I mean, next door to us in Paddington, as an example, we've got Five Way Cellars, and they've got a massive database that, for, boutique and, wines that you wouldn't be able to get at Dan Murphy's and whatnot. So we always team up with them, for instance, for wine dinners and stuff like that. We do, as I said before, we've got a tour break virtual video we're doing. So that's it. You can start targeting whoever you've teamed up with, whether it's a winemaker or another business in general, and use their database as well to get that information out.
I think that's a great point. You've just touched. Oh, sorry, Craig. You and I both have the same wavelength. I think you've touched on two really great points there. One is user-generated content. I mean, talk about cost-effective marketing. That's free marketing. That's free content that you can use, and you can tell people how great your product is until the cows come home. But if someone else tells them how great your product is, that third-party endorsement is really, really great. And you're right. The other one is if you've got if you can leverage off your suppliers, not only for things like, stock in kind or really cool bottles that you can use, but also any suppliers that have a really good database and you can do a collaboration with, because, you might have 10,000 on your database, they've got 10,000 on their database, and all of a sudden you've got a whole new group of people that you can talk to and ultimately convert to customers. That's another really good cost-effective marketing tool. So two really good points there.
The only thing I wanted to add to that was, you need to think more and more now and in the future. You need to think about how Instagrammable is your product. And you've done such a great job, Michael, with the small Patron bottles, and you've sort of led the way in terms of those little shake at home bottles and all that sort of stuff. And also your food is super Instagrammable. So you gotta think through that and go, am I just going to make, something that's super flavorful? I used to own a steakhouse, and I look back at all the photos that we used to do, and like there's so many browns, and now you have to go, right, well, how do I make it Instagrammable? Because that encourages people to share it. And there's nothing better than somebody else. I always say it's like dating. If I go up to you and give you my phone number and say how great I am in bed, you'll probably put the phone number in the bin. But if someone does that, then I'll probably get a phone call. Don't do that, by the way, I'm married.
Patty, what about you? Leveraging booking data, is that something that people could do from a cost-effective marketing perspective? You've got a booking platform. How do you use that data to market yourself?
You're muted.
Oh, I can't hear you. I think you're muted.
Thank you. 100% you're spot on there, Alex. And it's very simple from our perspective. It's collect a database, change the paradigm of how you view your customer data. There's a reason that the big international players in the online reservation space have terms and conditions, but they own the customer data. It's because it is valuable. Customer data is an asset. The example that Craig used before, it's a client that we share, the ACT example, and they'd been using Now Book It for just over 12 months and had a couple of lockdowns in that period. And in that time, they'd collected over 20,000 customer records, which is a huge amount of data. If you think you're going to send an email promotion for Father's Day to 20,000 people, you might be lucky and you might get 4,000 or 5,000 people open that. You might get 500 or 600 click through, and you might get 100 or 200 that end up ordering. But that's all you need. That's what the power of database is. The power of database is in the scale. And if you continually do promotions that are relevant to your brand and are going to be of interest to the people that have engaged with your brand, you're going to continue to get a high level of engagement and a low level of drop off. There's another business in suburban Victoria that is an Italian restaurant and has a pretty good reputation, and they decided to start doing weekly pickup boxes. And there was 3 different levels of pickup boxes. And the first one they sent out to their entire database, it sold out within a matter of minutes. It was a huge response. What they decided to do was the following week, to send an email to all the people that had purchased and say, hey, we're doing the same again this week. Here's the menu. And because you purchased last week, you're part of our early release database. It won't be going out to the rest of our database, until tomorrow. So you have some time to make an order. And then what they could do after that was say they only had 20 boxes to sell. So instead of sending an email to the entire database, they could send, like Mark said earlier, an SMS to 500 people, knowing that was going to pick up the remaining 20 orders that they had. So, once someone's engaged with your business, that makes them a powerful tool in your database. You can go out and buy databases that are worthless because people have no idea who you are. But if they've been in, they've enjoyed your food, they've enjoyed the service, they've enjoyed the beverage, the experience as a whole, that's someone who's interested. So yeah, just changing the paradigm and understanding the value and the asset that is your customer data.
I think that's what I've always liked about Now Book It is, unlike some other booking platforms, you own that data, and that's always been really, really important. And Eat, Drink, Play, we've got 80,000 subscribers, and whenever we get venues or brands who want to grow their database, we always recommend a competition. So that's another way that I guess I would recommend, if you're looking to kind of capture your customer data, put together a really kick-ass prize, something that's really amazing, and run a competition. And you can also get them to tag or share a friend so that they're sharing it with their friends as well. And those competition, as long as you've got your T's and C's correct, that's another way to kind of grow your database. What about you, Craig? Any other ways that you think you can capture customer data and use that to effectively market?
I mean, I think the most important, I think competitions are great. The big thing you need to be very aware of is that there shouldn't just be one prize, because there's an opportunity for all these people who have said, okay, well, I want to win something, there's an opportunity to send everybody a second prize. And so I'll give you an example. When we worked at Kensington Street, we did it with Eat, Drink, Play, but we did a competition was called Eat Free for a Year. And we basically put it out on our social channels. We put it out through Eat, Drink, Play. And we basically said, guess how many edible items there are on Kensington Street. And we'll give you you can eat free for a year. And it was just a voucher from each restaurant for a year. Now you could do that by teaming up with other restaurants around you and just take, you just get 12 vouchers. And I'm sure that would be, quite doable. And then what happened was we had 4,000 entries, and what we did was, it was cocktail week when we announced the winner, and we just sent out an email saying, congratulations, you have won 2 free cocktails at any of our venues, right? So it was the second prize. They didn't win the Eat Free for a Year, but they did win free cocktails. And we had, I think it was $20,000 worth of net revenue from that one competition. So if you run a competition, yes, have a great prize, make sure that you have good distribution channels. Like, so make sure you put a bit of, if you're going to create a great prize, don't just go, here's a great prize, bang. You need to think about how you're going to get enough people actually to the site to actually enter the competition. And then the other thing is take all that data and reward those people who have entered. The other way that I love, which I just think is just such, and we can utilize the Now Book It gift card, is a pay it forward promotion. Like, you might send out to your database, look, saying, I mean, you know, in these lockdown times, it might be, look, I want to give I want to give a friend a free margarita or whatever, right? And so you can create a form, you can nominate your friend to get sent a free margarita or free whatever, and that way, what you're doing is you're getting people who already are your advocates sending. I mean, you can automate that all so that they basically, all they have to do is put in their friend's name and details, and something will go to their friend and say, I have bought you 3 margaritas from Tequila Mockingbird or something like that. So those sort of things that speak of generosity and don't just speak of, I'm just trying to sell something to you, tend to be much better with customer engagement and also help you grow your database.
Yeah, that was a really successful campaign. I think we also did another one with Kensington Street. It was the ultimate date night, and it was tell us your best pickup line. And so we, I think it was like a dinner at Olio and drinks at Handpicked Wines and cocktails at Gin Lane, and then a night at the hotel there. And we then used that content, the best pickup lines, to create more content to share with people. So we did some cool EDMs off the back of it. So here are the best pickup lines in Sydney for you to use on your date night. And we also did the second chance prize as well for that. So if you have some other businesses that don't even need to be hospitality businesses, maybe there's a beauty salon that you could do something, and there's maybe like a hotel nearby, you can kind of collaborate. And if they have database as well, that's another way to extend your database. Yeah, what do you think, Mark? Are there other ways that you can kind of utilize integrations, web forms, anything like that to grow your database and effectively use it?
Well, I think one of the keys, I think, for a lot of businesses is if you're doing something in the business and it's not digital, obviously it becomes really hard to then capture that data. So there's still venues out there that don't do online ordering, for instance. So it means that they're still doing telephone bookings, and obviously there's a lot of benefits to doing it online. It means you're essentially accessible 24 hours a day. Patty would attest to that, obviously, from a reservation standpoint, but also, if you're not online, how do you collect the data? I mean, yes, you can have someone sit down and go through, all the orders that come through and take down names and mobiles and that sort of stuff, but no one's doing it. Like, we're reduced on staff anyway. So I think making sure that you are digital with an online ordering platform, and then capturing the data. And obviously at Sprout, we give that opportunity to be able to do that, because I think Michael was talking about it before and how he's got his database and he's been able to go out and communicate. Well, Michael's able to do that because prior to COVID, he'd been building up a database over the years. He recognised how important it was to grow a database. Now no one could foresee what was going to happen with this pandemic, but geez, it would have made things a little bit harder for Michael to do if he didn't have that database. So for any venue out there right now, like, you should be doing everything within your power to build a database of every single customer that's ordering online from you, because at some stage in the next month or 2 or 3, depending on what state you're in, we're going to reopen to diners. And then you're going to have this warm list of customers that you can go out to immediately and try to bring those people in and experience you. And then again, if we do go back into lockdowns for whatever reason, then again, you've got that list. You can go and speak to people. You can start, there's venues I've seen start new things just with this lockdown. So it doesn't have to be, well, I've never done any of this before. There's no opportunity to do it. Of course you can do it. But again, having that database will make that a lot easier for yourself.
Yeah, I think they're all really good points, mate. That's a really good question by Michael in the Q&A. So thanks for that, Michael. There are a couple of other things to consider when asking what sort of information you can collect. We live in a really connected world right now. Like, our Now Book It platform is connected to the Sprout and the My Guest List platform, so the customer data will flow in there. We're also connected to a number of point of sales, and in the future we'll be connected to a large number more. So the information that we're sending to Sprout will contain information like what's the average spend per head for that customer, or who had our seafood special on the weekend, or who's had a degustation menu, or who orders a bottle of wine that's over $100. And then you can start to look at really getting clever and tailoring your promotions to those people. And one of the things that Sprout offers is dynamic content. So if we're going to do a beverage promotion to your database, people that order cocktails, we can put an image of a cocktail in the background of the promotion, or people that order wine, we can put wine. People that order champagne, we can put champagne. And it's just another way that you can really tailor to what people are interested in. So there's, I mean, obviously the hospitality industry, the foundation of it is mum and dad operators, or, small multi-site operators, and it doesn't have that huge corporate angle that a lot of other industries do. So maybe we're a little bit behind the 8 ball in data collection and data aggregation, but I tell you what, it's speeded up really quickly now, and it's a really exciting future with what's happening in data.
And it's not really that difficult, is it, Paddy? I mean, like a lot of the stuff that both you and Sprout have put out, it's actually not expensive, and it's not really that difficult. So, I mean, we know that clients that have gone from other booking platforms to you have we know what data they get, and they just get so much more data.
I can't say it's not difficult, Craig, because my developers would kill me. They put a lot of hard work into that, but it's certainly the customer journey, and to leverage that as a restaurant owner is becoming increasingly easier, for sure. I'd agree with that.
So the next thing I want to delve into is, we'll just briefly touch on this, is media coverage. So some businesses out there will have full PR agencies, whether it's internal or external, who'll reach out to media. There's also a lot of single operators, or just a few multi-venue operators who always want to know how to get coverage. I guess, being in the media space for 11 years and having all sorts of media pitches thrown our way, I know our content team gets at least 50, 60 emails a day of restaurants, bars, brands trying to pitch them stories. We do 2 EDMs out a week, every Wednesday, Friday, and we're one of the relatively smaller ones, I guess, out of the major players, and some of them go out daily. So there's only a limited amount of space for us to be able to do coverage. I guess when you are pitching stories and you're trying to get media coverage from different outlets, there's just a couple of hot tips that I would give. The first one is have something newsworthy. So the fact that you've just launched a new menu isn't necessarily newsworthy. So it's got to be an interesting experience, or an activation, or maybe it's this crazy dish that's come on your new menu and it has an incredible photo, and it's something ridiculous that no one's seen. Truffles aren't ridiculous; they come out every season. It's got to be something next level and actually capture our attention. Put together a press release. So there are plenty of templates online. So, or if you've got a friend in media, just Google it and put together some sort of press release. You need to have the who, what, when, where, why, which, how. You need to have price. You need to have any relevant links in there. So put together a bit of a press release. High res imagery. So the amount of times that we get our site, obviously we want it to look presentable for our readers. So the amount of times that we get people send through the grainy iPhone photos of what looks like a really beautiful dish or an incredible cocktail, but it's never going to get any airtime with us because we need high res imagery. So I know that shoots can be really expensive, and we all don't have best mates who are leading photographers, but if you can try and take some good high res photos, even on iPhone now, just having some really clear natural lighting, and pick someone in your team who is really good at taking photos, and make sure it's the highest res possible that you're sending over to media. And if you can put a few different options, throw them in a Dropbox and send us a link, that's always the best way for us to receive them. Adhering to guidelines is another one here. So often, I think it's Time Out, they've got on there very clearly with their guidelines, I think it's 4 weeks that you need to submit a story for consideration. So there's no point telling us about this great, lobster truffle event that you're doing on Saturday and you send it through on Tuesday. We've already done our EDM for the Wednesday, and it's just not going to get any airtime. And also, where's the best place to send samples, particularly now because everyone's in lockdown. If you do send a box or a product or a bottle of gin or something, and you're sending it to the office, it's likely that it might be stuck on the doorstep because people aren't actually working in the office at the moment. So just a couple of quick tips for me. But Michael, we often see beautiful coverage, beautiful media things come through from you guys at both your venues, and I think we've covered you guys several times. Would you have any hot tips for everyone on how to get media coverage? You seem quite good at it.
Well, as you were saying, I mean, you've just got to be innovative. I mean, as you said, if you send here's our new menu, it's not going to really get much intel, you know. So it's just coming up with new ideas, you know, that are out, you know, different, I suppose. I mean, one of the things was, you know, all I heard, you know, and that's the first thing I was going to say. I mean, the smartest thing to be doing is to be signed up to every single social platform and every restaurant that you love and every restaurant that you know is doing well, all to their database. So the more content you get sent drives more, obviously, ideas and, you know, and seeing what other people are doing and how they're getting out there. Because obviously if you're sending to, you know, Adrian Play and you're not getting, you know, any coverage, then obviously you're doing it wrong. So you can see what's working, what doesn't. So that's one thing that's super effective. And that's it. It's just coming up with new ideas. So, you know, a month ago, I was just sick and tired of hearing another, you know, the industry's suffering and everyone's doing home delivery and takeaway. And you just start to realize that it's this sort of sad story of what people are doing. So, you know, I just sort of went, let's think of something positive to get out to people. Hey, there's a bright, you know, there's something new. We're opening a new venue. There's something coming, you know what I mean? Versus just, you know, just the standard home delivery and takeaway stuff that everyone was doing. So that's probably my main thing is just be out there, see what's going on, and then find ideas. Everything comes from inspiration for something else, you know. So use that as an opportunity to go, oh, that worked. How can we do that better? I suppose that's probably my tip.
Yeah, and I guess also the other thing is roundups. So if you're organized with your activations and your experiences, so you are going to do something for Father's Day, you are going to do something for, I mean, you're a Mexican venue, so you're probably going to do something for Day of the Dead or Halloween. And so often publications will do roundups. So if you can get your activation and your details organized, say at least 3 weeks, 4 weeks in advance, plan your activation calendar, and then you've got all the details, send them over and say, hey, if you're doing any roundups, you know, here's a couple of high-res images, and here's a little one paragraph on what we're doing for Mother's Day, for Melbourne Cup, for New Year's Eve, whatever it is. And that's probably the easiest way to get included in roundup. That's what PRs do. PRs send us roundups of all their different clients in one email. They'll just say, hey, here's what all my clients are doing for Mother's Day. And then obviously it makes it easier for publications to be able to include those. Anyone else have any tips on that, or
I think
pretty good?
We're sort of right at the end of the thing. Just because we've now going to open up, I think it'd be really valuable for anybody who's still listening to hear, like, what's the one tip that we have for opening up? My tip would be let everybody know that you're opening up and get some set menus organised on your booking platform and take a deposit.
Yeah,
good tip.
Absolutely, that's super important, Craig. I think just to remember that we're going to be in limited supply of seats in restaurants, and you know, basic economics states that, you know, when supply is lower than demand, you know, the power is in the hands of the merchant. And that's not to say you should jack your prices and jack your margins up, but doing something like delivering a multi-course menu that's easy to execute, that has beverages included, that's going to increase your spend per head, and also limit the amount of time the customers in the venue you have to make the most out of you know, only being open for 20 customers. So things like that you can keep in mind, and then pre-charging in advance to help with cash flow in a tough time, or worst case, you know, take a credit card pre-authorization or a guarantee on the booking.
Mark, your one tip?
Yeah, actually, and thinking back to my ResPack days, you know, control those table turn times, you know, get people in and out in an hour and a half if you're reduced on capacity. you want to get as many people in as you possibly can. So that'll be important. But I suppose mine's just going to be about get all your data together. If you haven't got it, if you haven't been regularly communicating with your database, don't just wait until you reopen and start sending. You won't get the cut through that you'd like. You need to start communicating with your customers probably from now. So yeah, start looking, get your data together. It's easy to do. Obviously, you can do it with us, but there's other platforms out there as well, where you can at least put all the data into one system to start sending out communications. And if you don't know what you're doing, reach out for help. I mean, Craig's Darling Crackles are really great at helping out venues with that sort of stuff. I talk to venues all the time that say to us, can we get that help? So get the help if you need to. And you can't all afford to pay somebody a part-time or a full-time wage to be your marketing. So outsource it. That's probably my tip.
Michael, hot tip from you for opening up?
I've got 3. So one would be keep going if you take away home delivery, because again, 4 square meter rule, whatever's in place, you're not going to have maximum seats. You never know what's going to happen. I mean, I'm still optimistic about whether, we're going to go back into a lockdown. It's, I thought we were done last year and we're back doing this again. So I would be consistently reminding people, hey, we're still doing home delivery and takeaway. I mean, let's face it, everybody wants a bottle of wine delivered to their house when they've had a bottle of wine and they've run out. So I'd be just keeping that going, because you just never know. We could be going into lockdown. I've always felt sorry for Melbourne. They're going in and out. At least in Sydney, you've been locked down and then lockdown again. It's been these big things, but it's going in and out. I think the best thing to do is keep going on that part. Use the time now as well to do refurbs. Venue shut, repaint. I've got architects doing stuff right now. We've got new plants coming in, because the opportunity, especially venue, use the time. It's sitting there doing nothing. Inside, no one's allowed in. So make it, enticing for people to come in and feel like, oh, there's something different. I've got to come check it out. And then last one's grants. One thing that I really spent a lot of time get involved with Sydney City, whatever, council you're with, find out what grants are on. Wallara Council right now opening up parklets. So you can basically have parklets out on all the street. They're up right now for submission. And there's so many grants last year and the year before. I think we got between 100 and 200 grand worth of free money out of Sydney Council to doing live. We did electronic music events in the laneway in our city venue. So, get on top of that. It's free money. You don't realise how you go, oh, it's too much work, I'm not going to bother. I mean, why not get the council to pay for your events?
Yeah, that's great tips. And look, all of that was really, really relevant. We had a couple of questions come in, but what we'll do is we'll answer them offline, and we'll send around an email to everyone answering some of those questions that have been asked. Lorenzo, I can see yours about media, so I'll definitely send you over an email about that. And yeah, thank you guys for taking the time to share your pearls of wisdom, and thanks to everyone who tuned in and listened. And we'll send around some of those links and a recording of this video that you can share with anyone else in your team who may have missed it. That's it. Everyone stay safe.
Alex.
Thank you.